When Alpha King Ronan Blackridge opened the Forbidden Moon Den, he found a woman sleeping on the cold stone floor beneath his three supposedly untouchable children. Finn, his youngest son, lay curled against her chest. Mira slept beneath one of her arms, her fingers twisted into the woman's gray sleeve. Kellen, the 7-year-old heir to Blackridge, sat in half-shifted form at her feet, silently guarding her. For months, royal healers had sworn the children could no longer be approached safely. Finn had bitten anyone who tried to touch him. Mira had attacked 2 attendants. Kellen had stopped speaking altogether. Yet their fur had been washed. Their blankets were clean. Empty wooden bowls smelled of warm broth, and for the first time since Ronan had left for the northern border, Finn's skin was cool beneath his father's hand. The fever had broken. Behind Ronan, Captain Gideon Hale slowly drew his sword. "My king," he whispered, "there should be no servant inside this chamber. There should not have been anyone inside." The iron gate to the Moon Den had been sealed under quarantine law. Only the king, the Luna, the royal den keeper, the chief healer, and guards sworn specifically to the den were permitted to cross it. The Luna had been dead for 18 months. The position of royal den keeper had been abolished 12 years earlier. And the woman sleeping beneath Ronan's children wore the plain dress of a low-born Omega from the lower keep. Boots struck the stairs behind them. High Steward Lord Elara Vale entered with royal healer Varric Sorn and 4 East Tower guards. Both men had dressed too quickly to hide their alarm. Varric stopped the moment he saw the woman. "Seize her," he ordered. "She has breached a royal quarantine." The guards stepped forward. Finn's eyes opened. A growl rolled from the 3-year-old's chest. Mira woke beside him and tightened her hold on the servant's sleeve. Kellen rose, placing himself between the guards and the sleeping woman. "Stop," Ronan commanded. Every guard froze. His gaze moved across the den. The chains that had once connected the children's restraints to the wall had been unhooked. One silver-edged cuff still remained around Kellen's injured wrist, but the boy was no longer chained like an animal. Near the hearth, a medicine tray lay overturned. Beneath it was a black glass vial stamped with the seal of the Royal Council. Ronan picked it up. Varric hurried toward him. "That medicine must be returned to me, Your Majesty. It may be contaminated." The woman stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, clouded with exhaustion at first. Then she saw the armed men, the royal cloak on Ronan's shoulders, and the black vial in his hand. Her face drained of color. She did not look at his crown. She looked at the medicine. "Do not give him that again," she whispered. Ronan glanced down at Finn. The child had hidden his face against her neck. The woman pushed herself upright, though her hands trembled from exhaustion. "If he drinks another dose," she said, "he may not survive the week." For 11 weeks, Ronan had received reports saying his children suffered from an aggressive form of moon madness. For 11 weeks, he had signed every treatment order placed before him. Now he stood inside a clean den, holding a medicine his eldest son feared, while all 3 children protected a woman the court called an intruder. Ronan closed his hand around the vial. "What is your name?" "Elara Vale, Your Majesty." Varric answered before she could say more. "She sorts herbs and works nights in the laundry hall. She has no medical authority." Elara looked at him. "A laundry worker can still smell wolfsbane." Varric's expression tightened. Maelor raised one hand. "This chamber is not the place for accusations. The woman broke royal law. Remove her now, before the children become further agitated." Finn growled again. Ronan looked at his youngest son, then at Maelor. "No one touch her." The steward's jaw hardened. Ronan had returned to Moonfall Keep 3 days earlier than expected. A truce had been signed at the northern border, and instead of waiting for the formal escort, he and Gideon had ridden through the night. No horns had announced them at the gates. No councilman had been given time to prepare a report. Ronan had meant to go directly to his chambers, but his feet carried him toward the East Tower instead. Once, the Moon Den had been filled with laughter. His late wife, Maeve, had sat beside the hearth with Kellen in her lap, while Mira crawled across the rugs and baby Finn slept against Ronan's shoulder. After Maeve died from complications following winter fever, the den changed. The children began suffering fevers, violent shifts, and sudden panic. Varric diagnosed moon madness and warned that the condition might spread through touch or scent. Maelor advised strict isolation. Ronan had been grieving, facing unrest along the northern border, and terrified that his presence somehow made the children worse. Varric claimed the Alpha King's scent triggered rivalry instincts in the air. Ronan had believed him. He told himself staying away was protection. Now Kellen stood in front of Elara with a silver wound around his wrist. Ronan turned toward guard Silas Crow, who stood near the outer gate. "Did you see this woman enter the den?" Silas straightened. "No, my king." Elara looked at him over Finn's head. "That is strange." Silas's eyes flickered. Alara's voice remained quiet. "You were very concerned the den might be disappointed in me." The guard lost all color. Gideon stepped closer. "Explain." Silas said nothing. Elara looked at Ronan. 9 nights ago, I was carrying clean blankets through the outer East Tower corridor. That area is part of my assigned route. "Why were you near the quarantine gate?" Ronan asked. "Because I heard a child crying." The memory remained sharp inside her. She had been walking toward the lower keep with a basket against her hip when a broken sound came from behind the iron gate. It was not a violent howl. It was a child trying not to cry loudly enough to be punished. Silas had stood beside the gate, pretending not to hear. "Is someone hurt?" Elara had asked. The guard gave her a bored look. "Those pups have already bitten 3 men. Then why are they alone?" "Because men prefer keeping their fingers." Another cry came from inside, followed by metal scraping across stone. Elara noticed an old service panel behind a coal bin. Her mother had once described passages like it. Den keepers used them to move warming stones, clean linens, and food, without crowding frightened pups. Silas saw where she was looking. "Do not be foolish," he warned, though amusement had entered his voice. "That den eats people." Elara looked at the water bucket in her hand. "Then I hope it is not expecting much. I am mostly elbows and poor decisions." Silas laughed. He did not stop her when she moved the coal bin. He did not call another guard when she opened the ash chute. He watched because he expected a low-born Omega to solve his problem by dying quietly. What Elara did not know then was that Silas had already reported her interest in the East Tower. During her work in the herb room, she had asked why so much sleep root was being sent to 3 small children. Silas passed that question to Maelor. The steward did not yet know who Elara truly was. To him, she was merely a servant asking dangerous questions. He instructed Silas to let her continue. If the children killed her, her death would prove the den was dangerous. If she survived, her unauthorized presence could later be used to blame her for contaminating the royal heirs. Inside the moon den, Elara found air thick with sweat, spoiled medicine, and fear. Kellen watched her from the shadows. Mira stood in front of Finn, shaking but ready to fight. Elara did not approach them. She placed the water on the floor, sat against the far wall, and turned her face away. She stayed until dawn. The next night, she returned with a wooden bowl because Finn had recoiled from the sound of metal against stone. On the 3rd night, she brought broth from the warming shelf in Marabelle's kitchen. On the 4th, Mira came close enough to take a clean cloth from her hand. Elara never reached first. She waited for permission. By the 5th night, Kellen extended his restrained wrist toward her. Elara cleaned the silver burns, but did not try to remove the cuff. He had not yet asked her to. On the 6th night, Finn stopped growling when she entered. On the 7th, he allowed her to touch his forehead. Each night, Silas watched her crawl through the chute. After she survived the first visit, he expected Maelor to stop her. Instead, the steward ordered him to continue looking away. The longer Elara entered, the easier it would be to claim she had caused the children's decline. On the 8th night, Elara noticed something else. Shortly after midnight, Silas slid the official medicine tray through the service hatch. The black tonic smelled bitter, with a heavy sweetness of sleep root beneath it. Finn drank only a small amount before his fever rose. His breathing became shallow. His hands shook. Mira pressed against him, terrified. Elara stayed until his pulse steadied. On the 9th night, Another black dose arrived. This time, Elara stopped Finn before he drank. Silas reached through the hatch and tried to push the cup toward the child. Elara struck the tray from his hand. The vial fell beneath it and rolled across the floor. Finn collapsed against her chest. Elara remained awake beside him until his fever finally began to fall. Exhaustion took her shortly before Ronan entered the den. Back in the present, Silas stared at the floor. Gideon removed the guard's sword. "Take him to a secured room," Ronan ordered. "No one speaks to him without me." Maelor's thumb moved across the dark signet ring on his hand. It was a small habit, almost invisible. Ronan noticed it. Varric's medical case remained near his feet. Kellen pointed toward it. "There are more," he whispered. The voice was rough from months of silence. Every person in the room turned toward him. Ronan forgot the others for one painful moment. "Kellen?" His son did not look at him. He looked at Elara. She nodded. Kellen swallowed. "Do not let him give us the black medicine." Varric stepped forward. "The boy is fevered. He does not understand what he is saying." Finn screamed when the healer moved. The child climbed into Elara's arms and buried his face against her neck. Mira's fingers lengthened into claws. Kellen backed toward the wall. Their terror was not random. It had a name. Ronan handed the vial to Gideon. "Seal it." Then he looked at Varric's case. "Open that." The healer placed himself in front of it. "These medicines are sealed for royal use. Breaking the seals may contaminate them." "Captain." Gideon pushed him aside and cut the leather straps. Inside were 12 wrapped vials. 6 held clear fever tonic. 6 contained the same black liquid. Varric's face went pale. Ronan ordered the medicine taken to the old herb room and tested by 2 healers who did not answer to Varric. "No one leaves the tower," he said. Maelor's expression hardened. "You would trust servants over your chief healer?" "No," Ronan replied. "I am beginning to trust what I can see." Elara remained inside the den under guard. Ronan still did not fully trust her. She had entered under a false surname, recognized restricted herbs by scent, and knew a passage forgotten by most of the palace. Yet, each time the guards suggested moving her, the children panicked. Ronan decided to observe. Finn awakened thirsty. Elara placed the wooden bowl near him, then drew her hand away. She did not lift it to his mouth. She waited. After a moment, the child crawled forward and drank. "You could have helped him," Ronan said. "I did." "You did nothing." "I gave him the choice." Her answer irritated him because it was simple. Varric's methods had been filled with commands, restraints, separation, and force. Elara's patience had done what months of treatment had not. Mira sat near the hearth with tangled hair. Elara held out a wooden comb. "May I?" Mira studied her, then turned her back. Elara began at the ends. When the girl flinched, she stopped. When Mira relaxed, she continued. Ronan remembered Maeve doing the same thing. The memory hurt more than he expected. Kellen remained near the wall. The chain had been unhooked, but the silver-edged cuff still circled his wrist. Elara placed a small iron tool on the floor between them. "He has to ask," she told Ronan. "To have it removed?" "Yes. It should never have been placed there." "No. But too many choices have already been taken from him." Elara sat several feet away. Kellen stared at the tool. Then he extended his injured wrist. Elara moved slowly. She loosened the clasp only after he nodded. When the cuff fell to the floor, the boy released a breath that sounded as if he had held it for months. Ronan turned toward Varric. "You reported restraints were used only during dangerous shifts. The children became unpredictable," the healer said. "Necessary decisions were made." "Necessary for whom?" Maelor stepped forward. "Grief is clouding this chamber. The woman has encouraged the children to reject authority." At his voice, Mira moved between Elara and the steward. Finn growled from the blankets. Kellen stood beside his sister. They did not attack. They formed a shield. Elara touched none of them. She gave no command. The children had chosen their position. Ronan's suspicion shifted. They did not obey Elara because she controlled them. They trusted her because she had never tried to. Mailer's gaze dropped to the braided cord around Elara's wrist. It was tied in an old, intricate knot. The steward's thumb stopped against his signet. For one heartbeat, fear crossed his face. Then, it disappeared. Ronan recognized the knot from old palace portraits. It had once been worn by the royal den-keepers. Mailer had allowed Silas to use an unknown laundry worker as a future scapegoat. Only now had he understood whose daughter she was. Ronan did not confront him. Mailer had survived 3 reigns by turning questions into disloyalty and accusations into insults. A careless move would warn him, before Ronan understood the entire plot. He allowed the steward to leave the den under escort. Then he spoke quietly to Gideon. "Follow him. Do not let him know." The investigation began that afternoon. The first contradiction appeared in the food records. Varick's reports claimed Finn had refused all nourishment for 6 days. Yet the kitchen ledger showed broth had been prepared every night during the same period. Ronan summoned Mara Bell, the 63-year-old kitchen mistress who had served Moonfall, keep longer than many council members. "Who ordered the broth?" he asked. "The requests carried the High Steward's seal," she said. "Did it reach the children?" The official trays were returned untouched. Smaller bowls disappeared from the warming shelf after midnight. Elara took them. Mara nodded. "Why did you say nothing?" Her hands tightened around her apron. "Lord Mailer warned me that my sons and grandchildren could lose their homes if I questioned the quarantine." Ronan stared at the ledger. How many people saw something wrong and decided silence was safer? Mara's eyes filled. "More than will admit it." Gideon found the next contradiction in the guard rosters. The East Tower schedule carried his signature, but the ink had been placed on the page while he was at the northern border. "It is a copy," he said. "A good one." The false schedule placed Silas on duty every night Elara entered. Several medical pages had also been cut close to the binding. The missing section covered sleeproot, long-term silver exposure, and wolfsbane poisoning. Varick claimed damp had destroyed them. There was no damp anywhere else in the book. Elara examined the remaining inventory pages. Her finger stopped beside a crescent crossed by 3 narrow lines. Ronan saw recognition in her face. "What does that mark mean?" She pulled her hand away. "Nothing. You know it." Silence filled the room. "Who taught you to read private healer marks?" Ronan asked. Elara looked toward the door leading back to the children. "My mother." "What was her name?" Her voice became almost too quiet to hear. "Elara Vale." The name returned from a sealed chapter of Blackridge history. Elara Vale had been the final royal den-keeper. 12 years earlier, she had been accused of poisoning 2 young members of the royal family. She was banished. Her office was abolished. Her name was erased from the den records. Ronan looked at the braided cord. "You are her daughter." "Yes. Elara Wren is not your real name. Wren was my grandmother's name. I used it to enter the keep." "Why did you come back?" Elara looked at him directly. "Because my mother's last records led here. When Sarah was exiled, Elara had been 17. They were given 1 hour to leave Blackridge in winter with 2 blankets and a small bag of dried apples. Sarah carried her notes from village to village, convinced someone would eventually reopen the case. No healer would employ her. No pack would shelter them after learning the name Vale. 6 years later, Sarah died from winter fever in a room above a stable. She believed the truth would outlive the people who buried it," Elara said. "Before she died, she gave me the warehouse marks from the medicine shipments. Several belonged to Vane Estate. So, you came here to investigate Maelor." "I came to learn whether my mother had been right. I took work in the laundry and herb room because those positions allowed me to see supply routes without entering restricted chambers." "And then you heard Finn crying." Elara nodded. "I stopped investigating and entered the den." "You risked everything." "There were children behind the door." The answer was simple. That made it harder to dismiss. Ronan lowered his eyes. "I had access to Elara Vale's file when I became king." Elara said nothing. "I did not reopen it." "No," she replied. "You did not." The absence of anger made the truth heavier. "There were wars," Ronan said. "Border disputes. A council that told me the matter had been settled. Elara held his gaze. Those are reasons you did not ask. They are not reasons she was guilty. Ronan had faced armies without flinching. He could not defend himself against that sentence. Can you forgive a man who did not create the lie? He asked, but chose not to question it. Forgiveness is not the first thing your children need from me. What do they need? For you to stop looking away. Ronan absorbed the words. Then Elara told Gideon where to find her mother's journal. She had hidden it beneath a loose stone near the laundry furnace, the only place she believed Maelor's men would not search without causing a disturbance among the lower keep servants. Gideon returned, carrying a cloth-wrapped book. Sarah's handwriting filled every page. She had recorded missing shipments of sleeproot, powdered wolfsbane, and silver compounds. Beside each suspicious shipment appeared the mark of Vane Estate. One formula matched the black medicine exactly. Another page described 2 royal pups from 12 years earlier. Their symptoms matched Finn's. This was done before, Ronan whispered. My mother discovered it, Elara said. That is why she was removed. Gideon entered later with another document taken from Maelor's private archive. It was a succession petition. Under the Blackridge Emergency Succession Act, the direct heirs could be declared permanently unfit if 4 council elders and the chief healer certified that their condition threatened the kingdom. The petition carried Varric's signature, 2 genuine council seals, and 2 expertly forged ones. It named Maelor's nephew as the next eligible heir. The date was 2 weeks before the children's official diagnosis. The illness had not created Maelor's plan. The plan had come first. Before Ronan could order the steward arrested, Maelor invoked the same quarantine law. He demanded Elara be removed from the Moon Den before midnight. 6 council guards arrived with the order. Ronan stood in the corridor between them and the door. Your Majesty, their lieutenant said, we have authority to transfer Elara Wren into quarantine custody. Her name is Elara Vale. The guards exchanged uneasy looks. The High Steward commands this action under emergency law. The High Steward does not command my children. Maelor appeared at the top of the stairs in council robes. The law grants me authority during a royal medical crisis. The law grants authority to protect the royal heirs, Ronan said. It does not grant permission to poison them. The corridor went silent. Maelor ordered the guards forward. Ronan did not draw his sword. He simply stood between them and Elara. Anyone who crosses this line does so against the Alpha King. No one moved. Finn walked into the corridor. He gripped Ronan's cloak with one hand and Elara's skirt with the other. The guard saw it. The order collapsed without a blade being drawn. Varric was suspended. The independent healers confirmed that the black medicine contained heavy sleeproot and trace amounts of wolfsbane. The doses were too small to kill immediately, but strong enough to weaken a young wolf, disrupt shifting, and create panic over time. Ronan appointed Elara temporary acting denkeeper under his emergency authority. Every medicine now required 2 witnesses. No child could be restrained without the king's written approval and an independent healer present. The improvement came quickly. Finn's fever disappeared. Mira slept through an afternoon without waking in panic. Kellen asked to practice shifting in the open den. Ronan stayed. When Kellen's bones began to change, fear tightened the boy's face. His hands became claws. His breathing turned uneven. Elara remained several feet away. Do not fight it, she said. Let it pass through you. Ronan knelt on the other side. You are not alone. Kellen looked between them. For the first time, he completed the shift without screaming. Afterward, Elara found a cut across her palm where his claw had caught her. She tried to hide it beneath her sleeve. Ronan noticed. Sit. It is hardly a battle wound. I have seen soldiers complain more loudly over less. She sat while he cleaned the cut. His hands, trained for swords and reins, moved carefully around her fingers. I was wrong about you, he said. You had reasons to be suspicious. I had reasons to ask questions. That is not the same as deciding the answer before you spoke. For a moment, neither looked away. Then Finn marched over, pulled one of Ronan's gloves from his belt, and placed it in Elara's lap. Elara raised an eyebrow. What does this mean? Ronan nearly smiled. I believe he has transferred ownership. Finn nodded solemnly. The small burst of laughter changed the room. Later that evening, Elara replaced blankets near the chimney. She smelled oil. Not old soot. Fresh lamp oil. A wet line ran down the stone toward the children's sleeping place. Ronan. He crossed the room at once. Elara pressed 2 fingers to the wall. This was poured from above. The iron gate slammed shut. The locking bar dropped from the other side. Mira screamed. Fire rushed down the chimney. Flames struck the oil-soaked blankets and spread across the floor. Thick smoke rolled toward the ceiling. Ronan threw water over the nearest flames. But the burning oil separated into smaller streams. The ash chute, Elara said. It leads to the laundry heating room. She pulled open the old panel. The passage was barely wide enough for a child. Finn froze at the entrance, coughing. Elara knelt. Remember the first night? I came through there. It is dark, but it ends somewhere warm. Mira crawled inside first, then reached back for her brother. Finn followed. Kellen, go, Ronan ordered. The boy did not move. A burning beam cracked above them. Fear forced Kellen into a partial shift. His shoulders twisted. His hands became claws, and he collapsed against the wall, trapped between forms. Elara moved toward him. Ronan caught her arm. The ceiling is falling. He cannot fit through the chute like that. I will carry him. He will fight if you force him. Another beam fell behind them. Elara knelt several feet from Kellen. Look at me. His frightened wolf eyes found hers. You are not trapped in that body. You choose when to stop. He shook violently. Ronan stood behind Elara, shielding them from sparks with his cloak. You are not alone, he told his son. Kellen's breathing slowed. His claws withdrew enough for Elara to guide him into the chute. He crawled after Mira and Finn. Now you, Ronan told Elara. A support beam broke loose above them. Ronan threw himself over her. The burning wood struck his shoulder and drove him to the floor. Ronan. Pain flashed across his face, but he forced the beam aside. Move. Elara entered the chute. Ronan followed, dragging his injured arm as the moon den burned behind them. They emerged in the laundry heating room. Gideon and 2 loyal guards were breaking through a locked service door. Mira held Finn beside the furnace. Kellen crouched near the wall, trembling but alive. The East Tower guards had been replaced without Gideon's authorization. Silas was caught before sunrise while trying to escape in a supply wagon. Under questioning, he confessed. When Elara first showed interest in the den, Mailer told him to let her enter so the children might kill her. After she survived, Mailer ordered him to continue allowing her through the chute. Her repeated presence would be used to accuse her of contaminating the royal heirs. When the children began improving, Mailer changed the plan. He ordered Silas to lock the gate after the fire began. He said the flames would solve everything. Silas whispered. The woman, the medicine, the journal, and the heirs. Where is Mailer? Ronan asked. Gideon entered with a decree taken from a captured council runner. Mailer had sealed the Great Hall. Using the 2 genuine council seals, the forged seals, and Varric's earlier certification, he had invoked the Emergency Succession Act to declare Ronan emotionally unfit to rule. The decree accused the Alpha King of endangering the kingdom after the death of his Luna. Emergency authority had been granted to the High Steward. Mailer had not fled. He had gone to claim the throne. When Ronan entered the Great Hall, Mailer was already seated beside it. Smoke from the East Tower drifted through the open doors. The hall was crowded with elders, guards, servants, and minor nobles. Ronan entered with his shoulder bound, Gideon at his right, and Elara behind him. Kellen, Mira, and Finn walked with her. Whispers spread when the council saw the children without chains. Mailer rose. Your Majesty, you are wounded, exhausted, and under the influence of a woman who entered the royal den under a false identity. You ordered my children burned alive. I ordered the den sealed after Elara Vale contaminated it with forbidden medicine. The fire destroyed the evidence before my men could recover it. Ronan stopped at the foot of the dais. Then we will examine the evidence that survived. Gideon placed the predated succession petition on the council table. Mara Bell brought the kitchen records. The independent healers carried the sealed black vials. Silas was led forward in chains. Mailer looked at him with contempt. A frightened guard will say anything to reduce his punishment. Then do not rely on his words, Ronan said. Rely on the dates. He held up the petition. This declares my children permanently unfit 2 weeks before Varric diagnosed them. The council prepares for every possibility. By naming your nephew heir? Several elders lowered their eyes. The independent healers confirmed the poison. Mara confirmed that orders bearing Mailer's seal had redirected food and medicine. Gideon showed the forged roster and the forged council seals. Then Elara placed Sarah Vale's journal on the table. Mailer's control broke for the first time. That book belonged to a traitor. My mother was called a traitor because she found the same formula 12 years ago, Elara said. Every hidden shipment leads to Vane Estate. Mailer turned toward Varric. The healer stood under guard near the wall. This man acted without my knowledge, Mailer said. He alone prepared every treatment. Varric stared at him. Mailer had promised protection for years. Now he was offering him as the sole criminal. You told me the children only needed to appear unstable until the succession vote, Varric said. The hall erupted. Mailer pointed at him. He lies to save himself. Varric's voice shook. You supplied the wolf's bane. You ordered the pages removed. You had Sarah Vale's records altered. When she discovered the first poisonings, you told me either she would carry the blame or I would. Kellen stepped beside Elara. No, the boy said. His voice silenced the hall. He came with Varric. He watched us drink the black medicine. Mira took Finn's hand. The 3 children did not hide behind Ronan. They stood together. Maelor's remaining allies moved away from him. Ronan ordered Gideon to arrest the High Steward for treason, attempted murder, falsifying royal records, poisoning the royal heirs, and conspiring to seize the throne. Mailer fought when Gideon removed his signet ring. No guard defended him. When the doors closed behind the traitor, Ronan faced the council. Sarah Vale was innocent. Her title, name, and honor will be restored. Then he turned toward his children. Before the throne, the nobles, and the entire court, the Alpha King lowered himself to one knee. I should have come sooner, he told them. I should have asked what frightened you. I should have listened instead of trusting reports written by people who kept me away. Kellen watched him silently. Mira's eyes filled. Finn stepped forward and placed one small hand on Ronan's bowed head. Ronan closed his eyes. Justice had entered the Great Hall. Healing would take longer. Mailer was stripped of his title, lands, and fortune. He was sentenced to spend the rest of his life at Ironpine Fortress. His assets funded an independent infirmary for poor children and low-born Omegas. Varric lost his healer's title and was imprisoned. Silas received a reduced sentence for providing evidence, but his part in the attempted murder of the children still earned him many years behind bars. Sarah Vale's name was restored to the royal records. When Ronan asked Elara to remain at Moonfall Keep, she did not answer immediately. I will not live under a borrowed name again, she said. Then stay as Elara Vale. Only if this kingdom remembers what that name cost. It will. 6 months later, the rebuilt Moon Den had no iron gate. The burned stone had been replaced with cedar walls, wide windows, and 2 doors that could never be locked from the outside. Every medicine required 2 signatures. Every child could refuse an examination. No healer entered alone. The royal denkeeper's office had been restored. Elara Vale stood near the hearth, while 3 young wolves chased one another across the rugs. Finn stumbled over his paws, rolled into a basket, and emerged wearing it like a crown. Mira laughed so hard that she dropped the ribbon she was braiding. Kellen pretended not to laugh. Ronan watched from the doorway. His children still noticed him, but they no longer became silent when he entered. Finn ran into his legs. Mira demanded that he decide whether her ribbon was crooked. Kellen asked if they could practice shifting outside before supper. The requests were ordinary. That made them precious. Ronan changed more than the den. Medical reports now passed through 3 independent offices. Servants could report danger directly to the crown. Indefinite quarantine, without outside review, was abolished. He came to the den every morning and evening. He learned which stories helped Finn sleep, which sounds frightened Mira, and when Kellen needed company without questions. Some days, the children forgave him easily. Other days, they remembered. Ronan stayed for both. Nearly 1 year after the fire, Elara found him standing outside the den while snow settled on his dark hair. In his hand was the braided cord that had belonged to her mother, repaired with a silver clasp bearing the restored denkeeper seal. "This should remain yours," he said. Elara accepted it carefully. Inside the den, Kellen was 8, Mira was 6, and Finn had just turned 4. Their voices filled the chamber, where silence had once ruled. Ronan looked toward them. "I used to believe protecting people meant making every decision for them. And now? Now I know it can mean giving them the freedom to decide whether they still want you near." Elara studied him. There had been no sudden mate bond between them. No moonlit command had erased grief, guilt, or fear. Trust formed through shared meals, difficult questions, apologies, and the ordinary work of caring for 3 children who had learned that not every closed door was a prison. "I love you," Ronan said, "but I will not use a crown, a bond, or gratitude to keep you here." Elara's eyes softened. "That may be the first intelligent thing you have said in months." He almost smiled. "Only months?" She placed the repaired cord around her wrist. "I stayed because the children needed me," she said. "I am staying now because I choose you." Ronan touched her cheek. He waited until she leaned into his hand before he kissed her. The pack did not name Elara Luna that night. That came later, after she accepted the role freely and stood before Blackridge under her true name. For now, Finn appeared in the doorway with his hands on his hips. "Does being Luna mean she can make the Alpha King eat supper on time?" Elara looked at Ronan. "Yes," she said. "That may be my most important duty." Laughter moved through the open den. The woman Ronan had once found sleeping on the cold stone floor had not come to claim his kingdom. She had simply refused to let its smallest hearts suffer alone.